It's the Real Estate Podcast, brought to you by ANZ Home Loans for financial well-beings.
And welcome back to another episode of the Real Estate Breakfast. And don't forget, of course, to tell a friend if you've got somebody just as interested in property just like you. Let them know, because we are talking property 7 days a week, even on our Sunday morning, September the 8th. Looking forward to the coffee and also the pancakes, which are a real favourite on a Sunday for me. Another busy week. Has it been a busy week where you are, if you've been transacting on real estate? If that has been the case, I hope it's gone to plan. Of course, here during the week, we were finding out all about different suburbs around Australia. On Monday, we caught up with Ryan Castles. He was talking about Sandringham, also Half Moon Bay. Louise was here. She was talking on Tuesday about her tiny home experience, because she built one and she did it in the middle of her relationship, and that went a little bit sideways, so we'll get to hear about that. Niall Malloy from Maroochydore there on the Sunshine Coast. We found out just how popular through Niall the Maroochydore region is, and we also went a little bit further north and we caught up with Tina Sander from Mackay there, and hasn't that done a complete U-turn from what was happening 10 years ago? So all of that is coming up on our Sunday morning. Enjoy your day.
Every week, we present so much real estate.
You know, supply and demand. If there's a lot more property on the market in spring, you're probably better off not to be selling in spring. You're better off to be selling when there's, maybe in winter when there's less property on the market to get the best out of it. But the market itself is a little bit patchy, but we're starting to see some really strong results come back in, and then buyer sentiment around the market and also vendor sentiment around the market is probably giving a little bit more confidence with the interest rates holding, and we'd love for them to drop that little bit further or start to drop, which will bring more positivity and I guess buyers to the marketplace and vendors putting their homes on the market. So a bit more confidence around things, but the market's still ticking along and we're still getting some strong results.
Now, I understand, Ryan, you had a property recently that sold very, very fast, and it's very unusual in terms of what happened. So perhaps just explain to people what took place.
Strange is one way to put it. It was over within a minute and a half tops, I think, once I got through my preamble. But yeah, we had an auction in Brighton, a beautiful home. It was a fantastic campaign. We had really good interest in the property. We knew we had the buyers there on the day. We had a beautiful spring morning. The sun was shining. We had a north-facing aspect, so it was, everything was there. The makings for a perfect auction. We know we had the buyers, the multiple inspections, so everything that we thought and knew that was going to be the makings of a really good campaign and good auction result. Went out there and asked for an opening bid at the bottom end of our range at 2.5. I had two bids come in at the same time, one at 2.5, and then we had a knockout bid at 3 million. So $500,000 above what I was asking. And in my 15 years of real estate and as an auctioneer, I've never had that happen, and I don't know if it will happen again. But the strategy for that buyer definitely worked. They were able to secure the property and take that opportunity away from everybody else, and that's okay. That's what you need to do in order to buy property. I think the most important thing, we got a fantastic result for our vendors, and it's cliche, but that's why I do the job. It's to get great results for my clients and to be able to have those stories and talk that through with people. It's not to be an expectation I wouldn't have thought from vendors going forward, but for the vendors that we sold for, it was a fantastic outcome and couldn't have happened for to better people.
I'm just thinking of the vendor, listening in on the auction, and you own the property and you're thinking, a little bit over the reserve would be quite nice. And then you suddenly hear it and you'd be thinking, did I hear that right? And you were probably thinking the same. Is that right? So when that was shouted out, you would have asked, surely, excuse me, am I hearing that correctly?
Well, I didn't do that because I didn't want to get them to second guess their thought process. It was, I'll take you 3 million, ladies and gentlemen. We're on the market and we will be selling because we were well and truly above the reserve price.
The thing with this is the buyers have sat down, they've worked it out. They've gone, right, this is a quality property. This is something that is going to go over the reserve, probably plenty over the reserve. Look at the day, as you said, you just described it, north facing, sunshine streaming in. It's a happy little buzz of people there, but they've already done the numbers and they've said, let's go in strong. So it's a testament to all of the people that have said on this podcast, make sure that you bid strongly because you'll knock people out. Probably not 500,000 over reserve, but yeah, I mean, it's a good point in case.
Oh, look, absolutely. I think as an auctioneer and as an agent, I always say if you are interested in a property, show your intentions. And if you are at an auction and you're there to buy it, bid strongly, because at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. If you have to pay that little bit extra for the home, that's okay, because you'll probably be in it for a bit of time and get to enjoy that. But, for some people, it's, you don't want to be holding the brochure, you want to be holding the keys. They want it more, I guess they wanted it a lot more than anybody else. And they saw the value in the property for what they wanted. I know we had a handful of other buyers that didn't get an opportunity to get their hand up. They saw value in the property at their price. But yeah, this buyer was adamant that they were going to pay what they needed to get it, and good on them in securing the home and their future going forward.
And I actually started to love really doing monotonous, repetitive tasks like sanding the floor or nail punching. I don't know if you know about building, Craig, but when you put plywood sheets up on a wall or on the ceiling, you've got to punch in the nails with a nail punch and a hammer to make them flush with the wall, and then before you can paint them. But you have to do that for every single nail through all the different, the whole wall. So those tasks actually were very calming because I didn't have to make any decisions, and with the relationship kind of a bit rocky during the build, I didn't have to think about that while I was doing it. So yeah, you kind of find your little points of calm, I guess, when you're doing a big overwhelming task like that.
You mentioned that you were in a relationship at the time, and I think for any couple, married couple or otherwise, if you're doing a renovation, I would imagine that it creates a lot of stress. I've never had to do that with a partner, but yes, no question, it has led to many marriages going sideways. And your partner, Max, along with a builder friend, helped you put this together. But perhaps you can just sort of break this down in pieces. So when did the first signs of all the stress with the relationship start to sort of present itself to you, and you thought, "Ooh, this is a bit of a problem here"? It may well have been a quarter of the way through the build.
Yeah, it's a good question. And to be honest, I guess this is probably what made it an adventure as well as not knowing anything about building. But to be honest, before the build, it was a bit shaky. But then I guess, you think that working on this project, being unified in this goal that you have, working towards a common goal, I should say, you think that will help and bring, I knew building was going to be stressful. It's a no-brainer. I've watched Grand Designs, but you just think, yeah, we're going to be working on this together. And initially designing the tiny together was really fun, and we would talk about the different ideas we had, and it seemed like that was working. And then the problems really did start straight away because we have different approaches to working and different ways of making decisions. And I was also the rookie on the build. Yeah, as you said, my partner at the time, Max, had a friend of his, George, who's an experienced builder but hadn't built tiny houses before. And it was a weird dynamic because Max and George were best friends. George was an experienced builder but had never built tiny houses before. I didn't know anything about building, but I'd done a lot of research and a workshop about tiny house building, and I knew almost all there was to know about tiny houses in theory. And then, Max and I were partners. So it was a very weird kind of dynamic, and I guess it was my project. So I was the owner builder, but I was also the rookie and the apprentice. So it was hard to know, moment by moment, you were often changing hats, and, they were more experienced in doing things, but I also made it clear that I wanted to be involved. And I guess sometimes they would just naturally take over, and they were used to working on woodworking projects together, and I would feel left out, and then I'd try to kind of do things, and then it's really difficult because you're grateful to them for helping you, but you also want to be involved. And I didn't want to just let them build my house for me. This was the whole point of it, was to have this experience. It's a long story, which is why I've written a book about it. But yeah, it was fraught. It was difficult.
Are you spending big bucks on ads that don't hit the right audience? Isn't it always about the right audience? You can land your message directly every day with our core audience. It's a powerful connection.
Very much so, yeah. It's no secret that Queensland's been absolutely dominating the domestic migration for the last couple of years, I think, and the Sunshine Coast actually the leading regional centre in the country. According to the Regional Movers Index, we saw about a 14.1% net migration to the Sunshine Coast, and a tick over 10% of that were people coming from capital cities.
What about the second wave of interstate movers? And what I mean by that is people moving into the Sunshine Coast. They've moved in, they've bought, they've got their friends, their family. They might be coming from interstate. They're visiting, they're staying for little holiday periods. And of course, what is happening is that they're realising, hang on, this is quite nice. I'm quite loving my days here on the Sunshine Coast. And then they turn around and they buy. Is that a thing that you've been experiencing?
Yeah, look, absolutely. Especially with family members, we've saw from, I guess COVID with a fair few lockdowns and things, people prioritising lifestyle, nicer climates, some more relaxed lockdown laws as well. So we certainly saw a mass exodus, particularly from Victoria, parts of New South Wales during COVID. Those people have obviously found their feet raving about the day-to-day lifestyle, often buying at a friendlier price point than where they've come from. And over the last 2 or 3 years, we've seen their friends and family visit, get a taste for it, and on the balance of all things, decide that it's perhaps a great place to settle. So, a lot of parents coming up to be close to their kids or grandkids, but also, friends or kids coming up to be closer to the parents.
Now, you talk about the Queensland grants for those new builds. What's been going on with those developers your way? The investors still sort of getting into the market?
Yeah, look, certainly a few investors with interest rates going a bit higher. We're seeing, and certainly with the demand of people that want to call the places home, owner-occupiers being a majority of buyers at the market, but it does depend as well somewhat on which segment of the market.
Now, since we're talking about median values, we better look at the Maroochydore market in terms of what is happening with those.
Absolutely. So the Maroochydore median house price sitting just shy of 1.1 million at the moment, and the median apartment price just shy of 800,000. And we almost, I guess, with the apartment space, have almost two different markets within that. Some of the most expensive properties in Maroochydore are actually the high-end apartment space, along with a number of entry-level sort of townhouses, brick and tile, and two-bedroom apartments.
We are more than just a real estate podcast. Follow each week all of the main talking points and know your property.
And Tina, welcome to the Real Estate Breakfast this morning. You are in a great little spot there.
Thank you, Craig. Thanks for having me. Yes, we do live in paradise, that's for sure. It's gorgeous.
As far as your area is concerned, very interesting. If you go all the way back to the GFC, it was going, Mackay as a region was going pretty great guns. Then, unfortunately, the GFC hit. I just want you to sort of talk to that, because we were just saying yesterday what was happening in the regional areas with people selling up. They're still performing pretty well with profits reaching up to 245,000. That is the highest since 2009. I know it's a little bit different in Mackay, because it really just stopped after the GFC for those people that bought before GFC. So perhaps you could just sort of explain that to our listeners, and then what's been happening over the last few years.
So yeah, basically pre-GFC, Mackay was in incredible condition from a real estate perspective. We are very heavily impacted by the mines here. So coal prices were strong, real estate prices were high. There was lots of confidence in the market. Then, as we all know, GFC hit, and it impacted the property prices in Mackay very, very dramatically. So if people purchase a home here for, say, $600,000 between 2010 and 2013, 3 3 or 4 years later, it was basically worth $300,000. Since COVID, as we all know, COVID did the real estate industry globally a favour. It's only been since COVID that we've seen a significant shift north. So there's been a significant swing in the prices in Mackay, which is incredible to see. There's great confidence around. People are finally making profit again in real estate, which is just amazing to witness and amazing to see. We find ourselves currently in a beautiful marketplace. It's incredible.
Yes. Now, the reason that I got you to explain that, of course, is it's quite a long period of time. Somebody has bought pre-GFC. We're going all the way back to 2007, 2006. And for those that have decided to hold on to their properties, not everybody, of course, was in that situation. Some had to sell for a loss. But because of COVID, they've been able to get all that money back in terms of what the value of the property is.
Yes, absolutely correct. And I mean, for the last couple of years, it's just been great, like better than great. It's been amazing to see people finally get back what they paid and then start making a little bit of profit. And the last 2 years in Mackay have been truly incredible from a real estate standpoint. And specifically this year, like we just are consistently seeing beautiful results for our homeowners around the region. There's a lot of people buying in Mackay, which is just brilliant to see. And I say to people all the time, when real estate markets are strong, it just creates confidence, especially in a regional community. Like, you know, Mackay's a beautiful city, great people, lots of people stay here for their entire lifetimes. And when real estate's strong, it's exciting and it's confidence building.
And tell us a little bit about, you've got a property, I think, which is coming up to auction maybe next week. And the property currently owned by an American-British producer who is the stepson of C.S. Lewis. So this is a little bit of famous activity going on, and it's a 63-acre property spread over a very large block by the sound of it.
Yeah, absolutely. I was sent an email about 6 months ago from his family just to have a conversation. And we've been working on it for the last 6 months to, I guess, bring it to fruition. It's truly incredible. It's a 7-minute boat ride off the mainland. It is a genuine slice of paradise. It's incredible.
We connect you to the best real estate information across Australia. The Real Estate Podcast.